Today's topic is data or it didn't happen. Thanks for listening to What the Heck is Happening in HR. For our podcast disclaimer, please visit the episode description. We're so glad you've come back to What the Heck is Happening in HR. And today we're going to talk about data again. It is one of my most favorite topics because it's factual. We can't really argue with it, despite what Mark Twain may say about statistics. I'm just talking about pure stats, pure data. What's it say? What's it show? What happened? What was the behavior? And what was the outcome? So let's talk about some common employee engagement metrics that we should know. And then I want to also talk about some common talent acquisition metrics that you should know. I spoke with a very senior talent acquisition person recently, and I was surprised that they weren't aware of what to capture in their metrics. And so it made me think, here we go. We need to talk about data again. So, employee engagement metrics, voluntary turnover. Who quit the company before retirement age versus those who are terminated by the company? Those weren't voluntary, and those who perhaps just left the company under retirement. Or perhaps if you had a early out program and they left under that, you wouldn't be capturing that under voluntary turnover. You have high voluntary turnover, there is no employee engagement. Let's remember what employee engagement is. I love the definition that allows us to say it is when an employee will share discretionary effort. They're going to make one more phone call. They're going to do something a little better than just doing it. They're not going just for the minimum. Discretionary effort comes only when people feel valued and they're engaged. Let's go back to some of those metrics that talk about employee engagement so we can pinpoint where our issues are. How about absenteeism, specifically unplanned absenteeism? Now, people put in paid time off policies because people were calling in sick or calling in just out for the day. So now we have this combination of vacation and sick leave. And the part of the purpose was hoping that people would be able to say, okay, we're going to plan it because if I don't use it for sick leave, I can use it for vacation, which I couldn't before. So I might as well just use my sick leave up. Didn't change the behavior of everybody, that's for sure, because you can't just do blankets like that. You really need to understand what their motivation is. So, when workers fail to show up for scheduled shift, absenteeism gives you an idea as to where that disengagement may be. Now, we do have some of this that happens. The Monday after the Super Bowl, it's always a cry out there to say, make it a holiday, but it always comes from those cities where the football teams are. So that's not the kind of absenteeism we're talking about. But if you do have a day like that, maybe you make it a very flexible day. Maybe you remind people that if they think they can't make it in at their scheduled time, that they need to let you know. Maybe you let people sign up to work. Let's say you have a store and people don't want to come in that next Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning, but perhaps you give them a little bump for those people that do. There's ways to be able to do that. You want to be able to take the feedback from any surveys that you do and see if you can move towards it. I always love the question, if this place isn't a 10, what can we do to make it so? Give me one item. And then be able to see if you can move it to a 10. Look at the performance reviews. See and read what the employee has written. So many times the supervisor does it, sometimes HR looks at it, next level signs off on it, employee gets the performance review, it gets filed away, electronically or otherwise. Really take the time to sit and read them, and they will tell you, one, how much effort your managers are putting into the performance reviews, but two, is there really an engagement? Now, managers are employees too. So if they're not taking the time to write a good performance review, and by good, I mean fair, complete, specific, timely, if they're not taking the time to do that, perhaps their engagement is gone as well. It's a tough tough job being a supervisor or manager. You are caught between the people higher up and your employees who many times you've worked with and now you've been promoted up. It can be a very tough thing. And then even looking at some independent third party places like Glassdoor, look at the reviews. How are they rating you? How are they rating your interviews? How are they rating your benefits? How are they rating anything like that? And there are some specific ones. I don't know if it's still around, but Cafe Pharma used to be around and really helped you focus on healthcare companies and be able to see, hey, is this kind of place I want to join? And it doesn't mean maybe you wouldn't join them if you get on that review, those of you who are looking for work. It might give you information, be able to ask in an interview saying, hey, I saw this on Glassdoor. Can you address it for me? Because it has me concerned. Okay, next one I want to chat about are talent acquisition metrics. You ought to know what sales per employee are, the amount of money generated for the company by each employee. Simple as that. If we add 4 more people, can we expect to have this kind of sales generated? You should know that number. If you can generate the sales without adding it, it will work. Now, one of the ways to remember this, and many of you know I love pop culture. So if you think of the tips on Below Deck, Bravo's show Below Deck, and the tips, if they're short a person, that same amount of the tip gets divided by a smaller number of people. Same's true in any organization. Now, that doesn't mean you do it so your service lacks or you're not able to do the job or you're burning out employees. Sure, in the short term, like on a short term cruise, that could work, but not overall. There's a reason you have the positions in. But if you add too many folks, it's going to dilute your ability to do other things. So you've got to know sales per employee or revenue per employee. What's the quality of hire? How are you improving the performance of new hires? How are you getting them acclimated? Are they able to hit the ground running, as the old saying goes? What's performance turnover in your key jobs? If you're an engineering company, you really want to focus on those engineering jobs, perhaps those project management jobs. What's the turnover for just those jobs? And what has helped make sure that people are successful? Is there a source that really is helping your firm because you're picking up on the training they received somewhere else? What's the revenue lost because a position is vacant? You just calculate that through the revenue of the employees. New hire fail rate. How many don't even make it to 90 days? They either quit or they're terminated or they just ghost you. How many applications are you getting per job? How many of those are qualified for the job? And perhaps diversity hires. What's the percentage or number of genders, different ethnic folks, different abilities? How many have you had? What's the percentage based upon the applications you have? Do you really have a diverse pool so that your managers have diverse candidates in order to then have diverse employee workforce? Well, we know we have diversity in our listeners, and we're so glad you're here. Thanks so much for listening to What the Heck is Happening in HR.